My name is Maylene Vance, and I am 78 years old. For the past 9 years, ever since my Arthur passed, I've been living in this house like a ghost. This house on Poplar Street, the one Arthur built with his own 2 hands, is the only thing that's really mine anymore. But my son, Leland, and his sharp-tongued wife, Taryn, don't see a home. They see an asset. They see a burden. That Tuesday, the sky was the color of a fresh bruise, and the rain was coming down in sheets. I was in the kitchen, wiping a counter that was already clean, when the phone rang. It was Leland, calling from his glass box in the city. "Mom? How are you?" he asked, but he never waits for an answer. "Listen, Taryn and I found a spot at Silver Maples. It's a sunshine suite. It's secure. You wouldn't have to worry about the stairs or, being a target." My knuckles turned white on the receiver. "Leland, I am fine," I said, the tremble in my voice making me angry. I could hear Taryn in the background. "Ask her if she's eaten." "She'll fall, Leland. She'll fall and no one will find her for days." They talked about me like I was a faulty appliance. "We're just being practical, Mom," Leland sighed. "That house is too much for you. We could sell it, invest the money for your care." They meant their inheritance. "I have my pension, Leland," I said. "I have this house. I don't need a sunshine suite." I hung up the phone, my whole body shaking. They had made me feel so old, so useless, that I had started to believe them. I must have dozed off in my armchair, because I woke to a sound that wasn't the storm. It was a thud from the back porch. My heart seized. "A target." Leland's voice. I grabbed the heavy iron poker from the fireplace, my hands shaking. I crept to the kitchen and peered through the small glass window on the back door. He was just a boy. Soaked to the bone, shivering so violently I could see it from inside. He was huddled against the wall, his arms wrapped around his knees, looking like a drowned rat that had given up. He wasn't trying to break in. He was just trying to hide from the wind. He looked up, and our eyes met. He didn't look dangerous. He looked broken. All the fear evaporated. I put the poker down. Leland's warning screamed in my head, "Scams, druggies, you're too trusting," but the face I saw was just a child. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. The wind tore it from my hand. "Come inside," I yelled over the storm. "Just, come inside out of this rain." He stared at me, his eyes wide and hollow. I ain't got no money, ma'am," he whispered. "I don't want your money," I said. "I just want you to get dry before you catch your death." I sat him at the kitchen table. He looked no older than 20. He dripped a puddle on my linoleum and wouldn't meet my eyes. His name, he whispered, was Silas. I gave him a bowl of hot soup and a sleeve of crackers. He ate like an animal, shoveling it in, his whole body shaking. When he was done, he just stared at the empty bowl. "You'll stay the night," I said. It wasn't a question. I set him up in the guest room, the one Leland and Taryn called a waste of space. I gave him a pair of Arthur's old flannel pajamas. They were much too big for him. I went to my own room and locked the door. I'm not a fool. But as I lay in bed, the house felt less empty. I slept poorly, waking at every creak. By the time the first gray light crept in, I was convinced I had made a terrible mistake. The rain had stopped. The house was too still. I got up, pulling my robe tight, and went to the guest room. The room was empty. He was gone. For a second, I thought I'd dreamed it. But the wet, muddy clothes were in a small pile by the door. And the bed was made. Not perfectly, but he had pulled the blankets up. A wave of relief washed over me. He hadn't hurt me. He hadn't robbed me. I went downstairs to the kitchen. I stopped. The coffee pot was on. It was warm. He had made coffee. For me? My purse was on the counter, right where I'd left it. I checked. The $42 was still there. The silver candlesticks were still on the dining room table. He hadn't taken a thing. Then I saw it. On the kitchen table, where he had eaten, was his backpack. A small, raggedy, olive-green backpack held shut with a safety pin. He had forgotten it. Sticking out of the top, almost like it had been placed there deliberately, was a small, tarnished silver picture frame. The glass was cracked, but I could see the photograph inside. I picked it up. It was a black and white photo of a young woman, maybe 20 years old. She was beautiful, with dark, wavy hair. She was wearing a simple dress, but on the collar, she wore a small, distinctive pin. It was shaped like a starling. A little bird in flight. My breath caught. My hand flew to my mouth. The coffee cup I'd grabbed crashed to the floor and shattered. I didn't even notice. I just stared at the face in the picture. I knew that pin. Arthur gave it to me before we were married. I'd lost it decades ago. I knew that face. I saw it every single day in my mirror. It was me. I sank into the kitchen chair, the shattered porcelain at my feet, the photo shaking in my hand. It was me. Me. From 60 years ago. How? How could this boy, this beggar, have a picture of me that I had never even seen? With a pin I thought was gone forever? I was still sitting there, my mind spinning, when a key turned in my front lock. My heart leaped. Leland and Taryn. They had made a copy without asking. Mom? Leland called out, his voice full of that fake, cheerful patience. We're here. We brought donuts. They walked into the kitchen and stopped. Taryn's expensive-looking nose wrinkled at the sight of me in my robe, the shattered cup, and the muddy footprints Silas had left. My goodness, Mother, Taryn said, her voice dripping with judgment. What on earth happened? Did you fall again? I didn't fall, I said, my voice flat. I was still looking at the picture. Leland sighed. Mom, this is exactly what we're talking about. This house is a death trap. You're not safe. He gestured to the shattered cup. This is a hazard. Leland, stop. But he was on a roll. We brought someone who wants to see the place. A friend. He's a realtor. My blood ran cold. A realtor? You brought a stranger into my home? A man in a shiny suit stepped in behind them, smiling a plastic smile. Mrs. Vance, a pleasure. This is a lovely property. Great bones. The market for fixer-uppers in this area is just. Get out, I whispered. What was that, Mom? Leland asked, annoyed. I said, get out. All of you. Taryn scoffed. Maylene, be reasonable. We are just trying to help you. You are clearly not coping. Look at this place. Mud on the floor, broken glass, you had a stranger in here, didn't you? Her eyes widened with a cruel, sudden understanding. Oh, Leland. She's letting vagrants in. She's being scammed. This is worse than we thought. The realtor looked uncomfortable, but Leland nodded grimly. Mom, this is the last straw. We are taking over. For your own good. We're filing for a conservatorship. Tears of rage and humiliation burned my eyes. They were going to steal my house, my life, and lock me away. They were standing in Arthur's kitchen, with their polished shoes and their cold hearts, and they were dismantling me, piece by piece. I forgot my bag. The voice came from the back door, frantic. We all turned. It was Silas. He stood there, breathless, looking poorer and younger in the daylight. He saw Leland and Taryn and the realtor, and his face went pale with fear. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean to. I need my bag. Taryn let out a short, nasty laugh. Oh, my God. This is him, isn't it? This is who you let into your house. Leland, call the police. He didn't do anything. I shouted, standing up, the photograph still clutched in my hand. Silas's eyes darted to the backpack on the table, then to the picture frame in my hand. His panic vanished, replaced by a desperate, horrifying dread. Oh no, he whispered. Please. Give that back. Who are you? I demanded, holding the picture up. Why do you have this? Leland stepped forward. Mom, give me the picture. This boy is a thief. He probably stole this. He didn't steal it. I screamed. How do you know that picture? Silas pleaded, his eyes locked on mine. Please, that's all I have left of her. Her? I was confused. This is me. No, Silas said, his voice cracking. That's my great-grandmother. Her name was Elara. Elara Monroe. The world stopped. Elara. A name I hadn't said, or even thought, in 60 years. Elara Monroe. My best friend. The girl who was my maid of honor. The girl who vanished 2 weeks after my wedding. Leland and Taryn were just staring, confused by the sudden shift. That's impossible, I breathed. Elara, she looked nothing like this. This is me. This is Maylene Vance. Silas took a shaky step into the kitchen. He pointed a trembling finger at the photo. No, ma'am. That's her. She told me she had a friend who looked just like her. A friend named Maylene. He looked from the photo to my face, his eyes wide with a dawning realization. You're Maylene? The Maylene? What is this, Mom? A high school reunion? Leland said, disgusted. We don't have time for this. Sir, he said to the realtor, let's start in the living room. Nobody is going anywhere, I said, my voice shaking. I looked at Silas. Elara Monroe. My God. She just left. No note, no nothing. I never knew what happened to her. She got sick, ma'am, Silas said, his eyes filling with tears. She died 2 years ago. I was the one taking care of her. This bag, it's all her things. Her memories. I felt a pang of sorrow so deep it took my breath. Elara. Gone. But the pin, I whispered. The starling pin. Arthur gave this to me. She told me a man she loved gave it to her, Silas said quietly. A man named Arthur. She said he gave it to her right before he married someone else. My blood ran ice cold. Arthur. My Arthur. Leland, who had been listening from the doorway, suddenly looked nervous. He knew my husband's name. He saw the shift. Mom, this is nonsense. This kid is a con artist. He's telling you lies to get your money. He hasn't asked for a penny. I snapped. Elara. She was pregnant when she left, wasn't she? It wasn't a question. It was a memory. A piece of old, buried gossip I had refused to believe. Silas just nodded, his face pale. Her son, that was my grandpa. He was born 7 months after she left this town. My knees gave out. I gripped the table. Arthur. My entire marriage, my entire life, felt like it was cracking open. Had Arthur loved Elara? Was his first child, raised in poverty while I lived in this beautiful house? Terrence saw her opening. He's claiming to be family? Oh, this is rich. Leland, this is a classic elder scam. He's after the inheritance. I'm calling the police right now. Wait! Silas yelled, lunging for the backpack. I can prove it. She left letters. She kept them all. He tore the safety pin off the bag and dumped its contents on the kitchen table. It was a small, sad pile. A few clothes. A worn-out Bible. And underneath it all, a bundle of letters, tied with a faded blue ribbon. They were old, the envelopes yellowed with age. The return address on every single one was my address. The handwriting was Arthur's. Taryn's hand, holding her smartphone, froze. Leland's face was ashen. I reached for the letters. My fingers trembled so badly I could barely untie the ribbon. They were addressed to E. Monroe, at a P.O. box in a town I'd never heard of. Mom, don't read those, Leland said, his voice suddenly high-pitched. That's private. It's an invasion of Dad's privacy. You were fine invading my privacy 5 minutes ago when you brought a realtor into my house, I snapped. I opened the first letter. It was dated 1 month after our wedding. My dearest Alara. I am a coward. I should have told her. I should have stood by you. Maylene is a good woman, but she is not the woman I should have married. It is you. It was always you. My breath left my body. It was a lie. My whole life. My 60-year marriage to Arthur. A lie. Taryn was smiling, a thin, cruel smile. She was enjoying this. She was watching me break. I didn't know what they said, Silas whispered, horrified. I can't read cursive. I just knew they were important. I felt the room tilt. Leland was right. I was a fool. A fool who lived in a house built on a lie. I grabbed the next letter. And the next. My vision blurred with tears as I read Arthur's words of regret, of love for another woman. But then, the tone of the letters changed. They were dated a year later. Alara, I have enclosed the money as always. You must not refuse it. He is my son, and he will be provided for. Maylene knows. I told her everything. I stopped. I read that line again. Maylene knows. I told her everything. I didn't. He never told me. I looked at Leland. His face was slick with sweat. I tore through the rest of the letters. They weren't love letters. They were bank drafts. Money orders. Worries about his son's schooling. Regret. And then, the last one. It was dated 20 years ago, right after Arthur had his first heart attack. Alara, I am not a well man. I have to make this right before I go. My other son, Leland's father, is a good man, but Leland is different. He worries about the money too much. I have told Maylene the whole truth. She has a good heart. She agrees. The north pasture, the 40 acres by the creek, is yours. It was always meant for you and your boy. I have filed the amended deed with my will. It is done. When I am gone, Maylene and my son will see it done. You will be safe. I looked up from the letter. The kitchen was silent. Arthur. My Arthur hadn't betrayed me. Not really. He had made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but he had spent his life trying to atone for it. He tried to do the right thing. He tried to tell me. He thought he told me. But his heart attack must have scrambled his memory. He died believing I knew. And he had left 40 acres to Alara. Leland, I said, my voice quiet. Leland wouldn't look at me. He was staring at the realtor. Leland. He flinched. What? Your father was the executor of Arthur's will. But when your father died, you took over the estate. So? Taryn snapped. What's your point, Maylene? He's been managing your affairs for years. The north pasture, I said, my voice as cold as the floor. The 40 acres. It wasn't in the will. I read that will a dozen times. It just said the estate. It never mentioned Alara. It never mentioned a separate deed. Leland was backing toward the door. You found it, didn't you? I said, standing up. When your father died, you went through Arthur's desk. You found the amended deed. The one that gave the pasture to Alara and her son. Mom, you're confused, Leland stammered. You're hysterical. This boy has you all turned around. You buried it, I whispered, the horror dawning on me. You hid that deed. You knew. You knew this family existed, and you let them starve. You let this boy's great-grandmother die in poverty, so you could inherit the whole property. So you could sell it all, undivided. The realtor's plastic smile was gone. Mr. Vance, he said, is this true? Is there a lien or a dispute on the title? There is no dispute. Taryn shrieked. She's a crazy old woman. It was fraud, Leland, I said. You've been committing fraud for 10 years. Stealing from your own family. His family. I pointed to Silas. Your own blood. Leland just stared at me. He had no words. He was caught. Taryn, however, was not. You can't prove a thing. A bunch of dusty old letters? It's his word against ours. He's a homeless bum, and you're a senile old woman. Who do you think the police will believe? I looked at Silas. He was terrified. She was right. But I wasn't the same woman I was an hour ago. The frail old woman who was a burden was gone. I felt a cold, hard anger I hadn't felt in 30 years. You're right, Taryn, I said, my voice calm. It's just a pile of letters. I walked past them, out of the kitchen and into the hall. I went to Arthur's study. The one they always said gave them the creeps. What is she doing? I heard Taryn hiss. I went to Arthur's big, oak desk. The one Leland never bothered to go through, because it was too much work. I pulled on the bottom left drawer. It was locked. I kept the key on the chain around my neck, right next to my wedding ring. I'd worn it for 60 years. I unlocked the drawer. Inside was a false bottom. And under that false bottom was a single, sealed manila envelope. On the front, in Arthur's shaky hand, it said, for Maylene. In case of my death. The truth. I walked back into the kitchen. Leland, Taryn, and the realtor were exactly where I'd left them. Silas was still standing by the table, looking like he was about to bolt. I held up the envelope. Leland's face went from white to green. He knew what it was. Arthur was a meticulous man, I said. He was an engineer. He didn't just write a letter. He kept copies. I opened the envelope and pulled out the document. It was a notarized, filed copy of the amended deed. The one giving 40 acres to Alara Monroe and her heirs. And stapled to it was a personal letter to me. It explained everything. Alara. The pregnancy. The shame. The money. And his final plea, please, Maylene. See this done. He is my son. Do not let Leland's ambition poison this. I have left this copy for you, and you alone, in the only place I know he will never look. Fraud, I said again, slapping the deed onto the table. And I have the proof. The realtor didn't even say goodbye. He just turned and walked out the front door, muttering, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." Taryn looked at Leland. "Leland! Do something. Say something." Leland looked at me. His eyes were not angry. They were not sad. They were just empty. He was a man who had been running a long con, and it was finally over. "What do you want, Mom?" he whispered. "I want you to get out of my house," I said. "Mom, please." "I'm not your mom. Not anymore. You are not the son I raised. You are a thief. You tried to steal my home. You tried to lock me away. And you stole this boy's birthright." I pointed to Silas. "This boy, who has nothing. You did that. Maylene, you can't just cut us off." Taryn shrieked. "We're family." "No," I said. "He is family." I put my hand on Silas's arm. "You too, you're just a bad investment." Taryn raised her hand. I don't know if she was going to hit me or the letters. But Silas, who had been silent this whole time, stepped right in front of me. He didn't flinch. "You've done enough," he said, his voice quiet but steady. Taryn looked at him, then at me, then at the deed on the table. She grabbed Leland's arm. "We're leaving. Taryn. We're leaving. This is over." She dragged him out of the kitchen and out the front door. I heard her car peel out of the driveway. And then, the house was quiet. The silence that I used to hate, the heavy, lonely silence, was gone. This was a different kind. It was peaceful. It was just me and Silas. He was staring at the deed, his eyes wide. 40 acres? Is that mine?" "It's your family's," I said. He looked around the kitchen, at the broken cup on the floor, at the letters, at me. I don't know what to do. I should go." "Go where, Silas?" I asked. "I don't know. A shelter." I walked over to the back door and, for the first time in 9 years, I turned the deadbolt to unlocked. "Well," I said, turning back to him. "That pasture is on the far side of the property. It's a very long walk. You could stay here. The guest room is yours. For as long as you like." He looked at me, the first real spark of hope lighting his eyes. "Ma'am? Are you sure?" "I'm sure," I said. I picked up the small, tarnished picture frame from the table. The one with my face, and Alara's pin. "And you can call me Maylene. It's been 6 months. My name is Maylene Vance, and I am 78 years old. But I don't feel like a ghost anymore. The house on Poplar Street is alive again. Silas is in the kitchen right now, and he's not a beggar. He's a grandson. He's funny, and he's smart, and he's learning to use the riding mower. He's terrible at it. My roses? They're blooming. Silas and I pulled every last weed. We hired a lawyer. Leland and Taryn didn't fight. They knew they'd been caught. The 40 acres are officially, and finally, in Silas's name. He's talking about starting a small organic farm, just like he says his great-grandmother Alara always wanted. I haven't been to a sunshine suite. I haven't been put away. Yesterday, Silas brought home a stray dog. A little terrier mix that looks just as scruffy as he did that first night. I told him absolutely not. The dog is currently asleep on Arthur's armchair. My life wasn't a lie. It was just complicated. Arthur made a mistake, but he trusted me to fix it. It just took me 60 years and a rainstorm to get the message. Leland doesn't call anymore. And for the first time in my life, I don't mind the silence. Because it's not really silence. It's the sound of a young man making coffee in the kitchen. It's the sound of a dog barking at a squirrel. It's the sound of a house that is, once again, a home. From a lonely ghost in her own house to a happy grandmother with a new family, Maylene's story is proof that it's never too late for a second chance. The house on Poplar Street is finally filled with love, laughter, and even a new puppy. If you were cheering for Maylene and Silas, hit that like button right now. What do you think they should name Silas's new 40-acre farm? Let us know your best ideas in the comments below. And if you want more powerful stories like this one, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another.